Hello, everyone, and welcome to Club La Santa Ironman Lanzarote. My name's Kevin McKinnon, and I am here with Cam Wurf, the cyclist turned triathlete. No, rower turned cyclist turned triathlete turned cyclist, whatever. Cam Wurf, good to have you here. You're
Yeah,
looking forward to Saturday?
I am. I've wanted to do this race for a number of years, and just things have just popped up every year. And then this year I told the team that this was one weekend I wanted free, and they gave me that granted that wish, and I'm really excited to be here. It's definitely a race I've been thinking about for a long time.
Yeah, because you've won Ironman Wales. That was one of your first Ironman wins.
Mhm.
Considered amongst the toughest, and
Yeah.
so this would be a nice one to add to that resume, right?
Yeah, I riding the course. I came here a lot earlier than I normally would for a race. People told me I should check it out, and I'm glad I did. It's definitely a tough course. I mean, I guess fortunately, my other job, I do a lot of hard bike courses, so I've seen plenty of hills in my time, but it's definitely a tough course. And then obviously the caveat is we have to run a marathon afterwards, so it's a bit different. But I think that hopefully of all courses, with what this time of the year, it's very difficult to me to dedicate too much time to triathlon because it's when the team need me the most with the classics. And it's the period of the year where guys get sick and guys get injured, and I'm called into races left, right, and center. um, but the fact that you get a lot of descents and rolling and things, so the fact in bike racing, you're constantly sort of pushing it and then recovering, pushing it
Right.
and recovering. I fingers crossed that this course will really suit me, give me a bit of a free kick in that regard to hopefully bring me up closer to the guys that, dedicate all their time to this sport, and I can be competitive on Saturday.
It seems like you've been dedicating enough time to it. You did Paris-Roubaix this year, and then, because Lord knows how hard can Paris-Roubaix be with 18, whatever, how many sets of cobblestones. You did a half marathon afterwards that evening. So
Yeah.
you see, it seems like you got this triathlon bug.
Yeah, Kona, as I said last year earlier in the press conference, was a big kick in the teeth. It made me realize how much I enjoy being one of the better guys in the sport, and I felt like I was just clinging on to being able to claim that by my fingertips there. And was determined to fight back this year, and obviously this race this weekend is my first opportunity to do that. And so consequently, during the bike races, I obviously want to do my job for the team first and foremost. I made the commitment to the team to be part of it, and that's the priority. There's 30 guys on the team, I'm just one. But if I believe that I can do something else around it that doesn't impact on the racing, I'm going to do it. And Roubaix, it was with tail breeze, so we finished quite early. It was I think it was the fastest one in history, so we had a bit more time before dinner. And I thought, well, why not put the shoes on? And honestly, it seemed like a great idea thinking about it. Then I actually bent over to try to tie up my laces, and my lower back was so sore. That was the hardest part of the whole thing. Once I started running, I felt fantastic. It was, obviously something that comes very naturally, and probably just a good reminder that of the level of this sport. The fact that you can do something like Roubaix, which is one of the hardest one-day
Yeah.
races in the sport, and then go for a run and actually feel, I'm destroyed like everyone else is finishing Roubaix. It's not like I felt great and so I decided to go running. But then, mentally, you just don't switch off. You put your shoes on, you go for a run. It just shows the level of what is required to be an Ironman triathlete these days, to
Right.
try, because the run actually in that instance felt quite natural to me, running with that fatigue. So, I've definitely done my best just to keep the motor patterns moving in this first part of the year, the spring. And I feel like I'm actually swimming quite well. I've worked really hard technically on that. I realize I can't train much swimming, but I can work on technique. Sometimes I've only got 30 minutes or so to get in the pool, so I just do exercise and things to feel the water, things I've never done in the past. And yeah, I'm excited for the weekend.
You've got the family here. It's almost like it's a little bit of is it a little bit of a break from the
Uh,
cycling world?
uh,
Is it more intense in cycling than it is at tries?
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about the team, support and the team, you know, sending staff and everything else. But the reality is, I was quite successful at this sport, with traveling with my
Without Team
wife. Yeah,
Ineos behind
exactly.
you?
Like without the team, well, they've always supported me. That's the thing. And to me, the most value in the support is is in the preparation. The opportunity to train back in the early days with Froomey and G, with Geraint
Right.
and Teo, and Pavel Sivakov and all these guys, more recently, Tom Pidcock, Magnus Sheffield, these young guys, Josh Tarling now, Michael Leonard, on our team, he's in
Right.
Andorra as well. To me, that's where the real value is, just having these guys around you that, are way better than me at what they do. And it just doesn't give me a chance to ever think about resting on my laurels. And so that's where it's important. When I come to a race, I like to turn up ready. So I don't need any of that support. I like to turn up to the race prepared, like knowing
Right.
that I've done everything. I guess the only thing that might be handy sometimes is a mechanic, because, you have those last minute problems with your bike. And to me, the bike is crucial. It's obviously generally my strength in the race, and I want to make sure it's right. But, I'm luckily enough, I'm a capable mechanic. So I want to see, I think performance wise for me personally, doing it the way we've always done it. I watched an interview with Carl Lewis, and got a chance to ask him about it when I was at a Best Buddies, a charity event back in Boston, back in 2017. And he talked about the LA Olympics and the pressure. And what he did was, to alleviate from that, he's like, I spend my whole life training. I mean, the racing goes like this. So what he did was he rented a house in West Hollywood where he had his family and his cousins. He had his massive house, he had all the family there. And he actually spent all his time between the races at the house around the family. And he said it wasn't until he won the final in the relay and he'd finished and he looked up and realized what he'd done. Then he went into the village and dealt with all that stuff. But until then, he just said, I'm going to keep my bubble, because people believe I can do this because of my preparation. So I'm going to keep things normal.
Right.
And I met him very early on in this journey. And so traveling with my family, getting a house, finding the local grocery stores, fresh food, my wife, loves cooking. And obviously it was just my wife and the dog originally. Now we've got a little boy now as well, a little 3-year-old charging around. To me, that's I believe is what brings the best out of me in this sport. So, and what I love most about this sport. And then obviously going to the bike race is a complete contradiction to that. And so it makes me appreciate this even more.
Now, got to talk about Saturday. The guy who took your, I don't know if took is the right word.
No, he did. He took it. I mean,
took your
it's one thing.
bike course record
Yeah.
from Kona.
Yeah.
Rode the 404, which, I thought what you had done was absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
so scary fast day. So everyone is anticipating, the two of you
Yeah.
duking it out on the bike.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to see?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I don't want to pee in Sam's pocket, admire him too much, I, when I took the record off Norman Stadler, I didn't feel good about it. And I think I've spoken to you about it in the past. Like, he went on and won the race, I mean, I just broke the record. I just couldn't barely run, like I just got through the race. I was 17th or something. The next time I was 9th when I broke it. Yeah, that's great. But to me, I didn't feel a worthy holder of the record. And what admired me about Sam taking it was I was in the race and I couldn't do anything about it. I was there. When I took it from Norman, he wasn't even there. He'd long since retired, And so I think that's just fantastic for the sport, because, you can't hide from it now. While I'm around and while I'm still competitive, there's always going to be this thing between us because of that. And I never realized the significance of having the record until I lost it, and do I take it personally? Absolutely I do, and it's something that's driven me and excites the hell out of me to try and fight these young guys, fight them off. Like I still believe my best race days are ahead of me, and I want to race these guys. I want to beat them. And yeah, I'm really glad that Sam's here. And obviously knowing that he was here was another reason I really made sure I was here, because I think it's great for the sport to, both of us are still competing to see who can, have that mantle. And I think it'll push both of us to be even better at the sport overall. So I can't wait for Saturday. But yeah, it hurt. And and obviously I want to try and prove a point on Saturday.
And does Saturday serve as a stepping stone to Nice? Is that for you sort of the big race?
Yeah,
And obviously you got bike races through the summer and
yeah,
everything, but
yeah. No, the team's been extremely supportive in essence, in as much as Cameron. For Nice, what do you need to do to try and fight back, after what happened in Kona? And obviously, first thing is I've got to qualify. So that's the priority, Saturday. I mean, we all know I could say I'm going to race conservatively to qualify, but we all know how I race. I mean, and a bit like Sam said, you have a plan to be, but once the gun
gets thrown
goes
out.
off, exactly, you just go for it. But ideally, I really got to focus on that as well, and trying to make sure I qualify. Um, and then, yeah, the team has said they'll give me a whatever I need, as far as a schedule and time to train and do whatever else, for Nice. And I plan to race Nice in June as well, regardless.
Okay.
And that's an important part of the progression towards it, because I think it's a course that potentially is a really good one. And then on the outside of that, they've given me some stage races this year with a lot of climbing, which I haven't done really in the past. And between now and Nice, there's an opportunity to do a couple more. And so that's really excites me. But obviously, I've got to get through Saturday first. I've got to get qualified, and then we can go from there.
Finally, what would it mean to not just qualify, but to get the win? To add Lanzarote to the Wales title, and there's Italy, there's a few in there, but I feel like this one would be a little special.
Yeah, it's the every race that I've won, there's been a significant. There's been a reason for doing it. Wales was because it was the hardest one, and Tim Kerrison. The big thing about when we started this journey training with Froome, he said you got to learn to win. And so picking a race that I could win, or had the best chance of winning was. And I think I ran a 3:12 marathon. I mean, that day, and I still won. Obviously I had such a big lead on the bike. But then after that, Port Macquarie, that's where I grew up. My mum and I moved there when I was 2. I was there at school for 4 or 5 years, and then we moved to Lord Howe Island, where I grew up with Tim Reed, etc. But Port Macquarie so that race was super important to me.
Yeah.
Italy, that was obviously questionable while I did that at the time, being so close to Kona, but all my sponsors were Italian. To Fausto Pinarello, the new bike, everything that was important to him, and it was important to me. It was important to me to thank my sponsors by showing winning that race. And it was quite a big thing in Italy with my history with Liquigas and Canada, the cycling team, etc. And then, of course, Copenhagen. Well, our partnerships guy is Danish on the team, Carsten Jefferson, who's always done all my sponsorship and everything. And the organiser's been bugging him for years for me to go to Copenhagen, and I'd always sort of wanted to go, a bit like here. It just never worked out. And finally, I got the opportunity to go there, and that was incredibly special to win there. So this race, I'm here because I really want to be here. I want to win this thing. Nice is another one, but I'm glad I got the opportunity to be here. And it's going to be. It's not just another Ironman to me. This is a very, I don't know what the word is, but meaningful, historic. Obviously it's the oldest one in. There's a reason I personally feel a real desire to win this thing, and yeah, I'm gonna give it everything I got to try and do it. That's for sure.
Of that, we have absolutely no doubt. Hey, thank you so much. This is Cam Wurf, and we are looking forward to an amazing day of racing. My name's Kevin McKinnon. Thank you for joining us here at Club La Santa Ironman Lanzarote.